G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to yet another crazy dose of EV and net zero insanity in MGUY EV news for Saturday the 15th of March 2025. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and please make sure you're subscribed and have enabled all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or click the QR code on screen. So I should just say we're having two news episodes very close together this week because, as I said, I wasn't able to make videos earlier this week. So we've got a few extra stories to get through, and we're going to get through some of those other ones today. So the first one, very interesting. This is not surprising from Bank Australia because Bank Australia is the wokest bank in the country. They're all in on climate change, all the woke causes. They'll be there. And so now what they've done is that they've really shot themselves in the foot in Australia, at least, because they've decided to take the moral high ground here and not give those nasty people who want to buy combustion cars any bank loans anymore. Bank Australia is blasted for out-of-touch ban on loans for petrol cars. Net zero madness. Yes, as you can see, it went down very well in Australia. The Australian bank has come under fire after announcing it no longer provides loans for new diesel and petrol-fueled cars. Bank Australia has confirmed it ceased to provide loans on combustion and hybrid cars as of February, and will only offer car loans for electric vehicles and second-hand petrol cars. By phasing out car loans for new fossil fuel vehicles, we are sending a signal to the Australian market about the urgent need to accelerate the transition from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles, a Bank Australia spokesman said. You see, completely politicised, completely agenda-driven. The reality is, let's just read this next bit. We recognise that the energy transition will require a wide range of policies and initiatives, and we are committed to playing our part in reaching a net zero economy. And the reaction is typically predictable. Aussies were left fuming over the announcement, with many expressing their rage on social media platform X. Net zero madness means only the wealthy will continue as normal. Buying a new internal combustion engine vehicle will be classified as an unacceptable loan purpose. Wow, one wrote. Bank Australia will be punished by the market, another said. Australians driving around in ageing ICE cars a bit like Cuba then, not a good look, a third added. Well, I've said this point about Cuba in the past, and actually that's what I advise people to do. You know, buy a good second-hand used car, combustion car, maintain it well, keep it for as long as you can. People are just not going to buy EVs they don't want. They'll just keep maintaining their petrol car until it gives up and then buy another second-hand one. I think that is the reality, and Australia is the worst country to do this awful virtue signalling in because unfortunately we love our utes and our SUVs, and that isn't going to change anytime soon, as the February sales figures quite clearly show. Australian new car sales in February 2025. Slump in deliveries continues as RAV4 leads VFACTS again. That's the data source. Deliveries of new vehicles in Australia slipped into the red again last month amid a decline in sales of utes and electric cars. Yet every model in the top 10 was a ute or SUV. New motor vehicle sales hit the brakes again in Australia last month for the 7th time in 9 months, as the charts were topped for a record 8th month in a row by the Toyota RAV4 SUV. February 2025 new vehicle sales tallied 96,710, according to data published by the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries and the Electric Vehicle Council. It's down 7.9% on the prior year's 105,000, the all-time February record, but it is still the second best February on record, ahead of the previous record of 96,000 vehicles set in 2016. And this is the shocking figure here. Sales of electric cars were down 43.8% for the month and 36.6% year to date, led by a 71.9% fall for Tesla. How's that looking, Bank Australia? care to revise your decision anytime soon? I wonder. If Bank Australia wants to shoot itself in the foot by refusing to fund anything other than electric cars, well, that's the market will out in the end, and we'll see how long Bank Australia sticks with that particular decision. In the UK, some interesting research by the Automobile Association, the AA, that there's still a lot of people who are considering buying an electric vehicle. I mean, the atmosphere in the UK is different from here or the US because of the antics of the mad Ed Miliband. But it's remarkable how many people are still even considering it. And I think that's a lack of information, really. As soon as people understand how inconvenient and impractical EVs are, they quickly change their mind. More than a fifth of drivers say they'll never buy an electric car. An AA survey finds a lot of myths about the switch. Oh, I bet it does. And it says the government should launch an information campaign. A fifth of drivers say they will never buy an electric vehicle, while others feel abandonment by government over plans to ban petrol cars, research shows. Polling of 14,000 drivers by the AA reveals that even those happy to make the switch to electric vehicles, EVs, fear they will be left to navigate a complex and fragmented infrastructure with little help from government. Despite the plan to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel vehicles in 2030, about 22% of drivers questioned said they would never get an EV. A further 20% said that they still plan to buy a petrol or diesel car when they replace their present model. So that's over 40% of people are not convinced. But even the 52% of drivers broadly supportive of the switch were concerned about the cost. One factor in drivers' reluctance to adopt EVs was a lack of understanding of government policy, the AA said. What? I would have thought it would have been pretty clear in the UK. The survey suggested that most drivers did not understand that petrol and diesel vehicles would no longer be available for sale after 2030. 7% of those surveyed thought second-hand petrol cars would be made illegal. Yeah, well, there's a lot of misunderstandings on both sides. And this is another reason why, mandating people give up petrol cars and diesel cars by, within 5 years is completely insane, and why it will probably never happen if we're lucky. So it's an interesting few articles we've got here. We've got one from France and two from Denmark coming up. Thanks, Google Translate. This one's interesting because it talks about 4 ways in which EVs are subject to cyber attacks when they're charging at charging stations. As the headline reads, cyber attacks, 4 dangers to which an electric vehicle is exposed at the charging station. Fake QR codes, mouse jacking, reprogramming. Owners of electric vehicles should be wary during the charging phase, especially at public charging stations. Here are the techniques used by the criminals. Modern cars have seen a sharp increase in cyber attacks throughout 2024 is the unequivocal finding of Upstream's Automotive and Smart Mobility Global Cybersecurity Report in 2025 in the United States. In particular because of an emerging risk that concerns electric cars at the time when the vehicles are plugged into the charging station. Gaël Musquet, an expert in cybersecurity, details the main risks incurred for Le Figaro. Fake QR codes, cyber attacks, reprogramming of charging stations, and mouse jacking. So all the links to these articles are in the description. Go and read it yourself. But, we've talked about how connected cars generally, because they have some kind of connection to the internet, are theoretically open to cyber attacks if there's a way to get into those systems from the internet. But this talks about how the risks are increased if you're actually physically plugged in to a charging station. Very interesting article. Go and check it out. So if you're a Volkswagen driver, you're not going to be very happy here because they've done a software update which has made it take longer to charge your car and cost more. Excellent. Volkswagen owners are affected by longer charging times. It takes longer and costs more money to charge an electric car from the VW group. Brilliant. Owners of electric cars from the Volkswagen group have had their charging time extended for home charging. This is what Jyllands-Posten writes. The longer time spent at the charger is reflected in a reduced charging power during AC charging. According to the newspaper, that these are the models that are built on the MEB platform and therefore have the same battery, the same charging system and the same basic software. Thus, owners of Audi, Cupra, Skoda and VW are affected by the fact that their car will no longer charge three-phase when charging at home after the software update from version 3 to version 3.7. Instead, the car will only charge in two phases and thus no longer charge with 11 kilowatt hours but with 7.4 kilowatt hours. So a third of the normal charging speed is missing. According to an owner of Skoda Enyaq 80, the problem has existed since June last year. The problem has been constant since I updated last summer. I may be lucky that it will briefly charge in all three phases for half an hour, but then it jumps down to two phases, explains the Enyaq owner to Jyllands-Posten. An owner of a VW ID4 GTX says that he has had the problem since October. Normally it takes 6 to 8 hours to fully charge a battery, but now it takes 12 hours instead, says the ID4 owner. In practice, this means that owners of electric cars from the Volkswagen Group cannot benefit from the same financial benefit from the cheap night hours, but are also forced to charge during more expensive off-peak hours. Yes, I guess if your charging time extends longer, it will start to move into those peak periods as well as the cheap overnight periods. Brilliant. This is the problem with connected cars. You're buying one thing one day and then they can change it by a software update and suddenly you can't charge as fast, or there's some other feature that's been disabled. Lewis Rossman would have a great time with this story. And here's another article from Denmark which shows how the electricity infrastructure in that country is struggling to keep up with the push for EVs, and it's having to rely on, shock horror, diesel generators to help power the chargers. Danish city charges electric cars with electricity from diesel generator. How embarrassing. How clean is that, I wonder? In the station town of Gislinge, electric cars are currently charged with electricity from a mobile diesel generator. Since Christmas, there have been power cuts in the city. It is not everywhere in Denmark that the electricity grid is geared to also take care of electric cars. In the station town of Gislinge on Zealand, a truck with a diesel generator has to supply the power. The city has been plagued by several power outages since Christmas, and the easiest solution is a giant diesel generator from the grid company Sirius. This is reported again by Jyllands-Posten, among others. According to the company's website, Sirius covers northwest, central and south Zealand, Lolland, Falster and the islands, but there is not enough power for the electric cars. And this issue is only going to get worse because if you had an all-electric fleet of cars, the amount of demand on the grid would grow so much that there would have to be huge investment in upgrading the grid to cope with it. It's like it will all happen by magic. People will just plug in their cars overnight into their electricity sockets and it will all just happen by magic. Well, it literally won't. It literally won't. I hate to say it. And just across the Dutch in New Zealand, the hate fest against Tesla is going strong over there as well. Police probe after 6 Teslas targeted by spray paint. Cars left undrivable. Police are investigating 6 incidents where electric vehicles have been targeted by a spray paint pest who has left cars so damaged they cannot be driven. The owners believe the attacks are politically motivated and a protest act against Tesla's controversial chief executive Elon Musk. It comes after 2 other electric cars, a Tesla and a Polestar vehicle, which the owner believes was mistaken for a Tesla, were targeted with the same designs. All the vehicles were vandalized on Sunday night. Oh dear. Yeah, well, it seems to be happening everywhere at the moment. Mr. Musk is certainly a polarizing character, and I think his association with the Trump administration is going to put off a lot of people that would have previously or ordinarily bought or considered buying a Tesla. They probably won't be anymore. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.